Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about religion. Again, religion's a bit of a touchy subject in a college classroom. So again, whenever we're in sociology, I'm always avoiding any personal bias and always am like, students never say your personal thoughts on stuff. Let's look at it from a scientific perspective. Let's look at it from all the perspectives of religion. Okay, so again, that's always my disclaimer with my sociology classes is like, we shouldn't ask questions like, what's your stance on abortion? It should be questions like, what are the perspectives on abortion? And so again, when we're looking at the sociology of religion, we're looking at it one from anthropology. Okay, we're looking at it from a cultural perspective. How is religion a structure of culture, a pillar of our society, an institution of society that structures our lives? Okay, and in order to really understand that, we have to take an anthropological approach and really delve into the culture of religion. Okay, so that's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is looking at it in like a systems and structures kind of way. How does it structure your behavior? How does it structure the way you think? How does it structure society in general? And then another way of looking at it is like the spiritual side. The can't prove it, can't disprove it. Does God exist? Where does God come from if God exists? Is science a religion? I mean, think about it. Where does the matter for the Big Bang come from? Are you actually tapped into a matrix right now? Can you prove that this whole reality of what I'm seeing is not actually just a computer simulation and I'm tapped into the matrix for anyone who's seen the matrix? And again, this is the idea of all of human life is subjective. There is no such thing as objectivity. Why? Because no one can actually get out of their head. So the fact is, you can't get out of your head to prove anything. So when you hear words like truth or fact, that's when, as a sociologist, we start to question things a little bit. Like, all right, truth or fact, prove it, disprove it. And so when it comes to religion, you know, we can't just take a scientific perspective. We also have to take it from a spiritual perspective because, again, you don't know. What if, all of this is real? What if it actually is true, but you can't prove it and you can't disprove it? So, for anyone to say it's truth or fact, and then saying somebody else is wrong, again, this is where conflict comes in when it comes to religion. And this is why people go to war. So again, very sensitive topics. So again, we're going to be looking at it from an anthropological perspective, looking at it from a cultural perspective, okay? We're going to be looking at it from a sociological perspective, from systems and structures, and how does that influence social behavior and cognition. And then again, we're going to be looking at it from a spiritual side in the evolution of the potential of spirituality and the potential for that being real, even though you can't prove it and you can't disprove it. Okay, and then again, we're also going to look at it from a historical view and then through all the perspectives. But again, if you guys want to look at the history of religion a little bit, you got to ask, how many religions have there actually been? Okay, and now religions have been consolidated into just a few select major religions, but that wasn't the case prior. Okay, like if we go back, a few hundred years and then a few thousand years, there are so many gods, so many religions, and then, you can see the evolution of these religions and the consolidation of religion into the hands of the few. Okay? And you can also trace things like monotheism, where Greeks and Romans had many gods, and then all of a sudden you see the Hebrews coming along and suggesting monotheism, and then you see King Tut's parents, Queen Nefertiti and King uh, Akhenaten coming in and suggesting one god. And then Socrates comes along and suggests one God. Guys, why was Socrates killed? Socrates was killed because he suggested one God. Okay? And so again, you see the evolution of monotheism, and that has now been consolidated into the hands of Christianity and being Jewish and Islamic. Okay? And then we have other major religions like Buddhism, following Siddhartha, and Confucianism, following the ways of Confucius, and being Hindu, which is thousands of year old religion, going way back into ancient times. And then you have minor sects of religions, like the sheiks, for example. And so and then you have branches within each religion. And again, it's a very extensive, formalized, bureaucratic, institution of society is what religion is. And there's so many different religions and so many opinions on the subject. And that's why, again, there's so many classes devoted to it and books upon books and so much human history that we can't wrap up in one lecture. And again, we're in an intro to sociology class. So I'm introducing you to the approach to studying religion from a scientific perspective, but also opening the door to the potential of spirituality and all the other factors that come along with it. And I know it's like taboo to mention things like spirituality, but I teach nursing students, for example, and I teach college culture and diversity for nursing students sometimes. And in this class, I have to teach them how to be culturally competent. And I have to say things like, look, spirituality is important to people. So if you're going to holistically treat somebody as a nurse, you can't just deny spirituality and just approach all of medical field from a scientific perspective. Because if we're going to treat a whole patient, and if spirituality matters to them, then we have to conform to the needs of the patient, which means embracing that side and enabling them to bring that to the table through the traumatic experiences, such as being in a hospital, for example. Okay, so again, we're going to look at it from anthropology, culture. We're going to look at it from spiritual side. We're going to look at it from systems and structure side. We're going to look at it from a historical socioculture perspective. Put it all together. All right. And then again, we're always going to question things like matrix theory. Are we tapped into the matrix? Because when you hear words like truth and fact, we should question that. All right. So religion, as with all these institutions that we're about to talk about, is an institution. Now, the real question is religion socially constructed? Is it made by us? Is religion culturally constructed? So again, it's hard to sit here and say that religion is culturally constructed. Yes, culture and people have their hands on religion. Our practicing of religion and the way we build our, places of worship and things along those lines. A lot of that, of course, is influenced by us, but how much of it was inspired by something beyond us? And that's the can't prove it, can't disprove it. So again, to say that the origin of religion is a social phenomena, yes, a lot of religion is a social phenomena. We institutionalize this way of life. We've institutionalized the religion. We've made them formal. We've established rules and value systems and norms and a culture, a way of life around religion. But again, the origin of religion is a debate for a theology class. Okay, so a religion, just like culture, is a system of beliefs, symbols, and rituals. Okay, religion is a pillar of society, it's a pillar of culture, it's a binding thing, it brings us together. Okay, the book talks about the sacred versus the profane, the sacred being those things that are beyond us, outside of the box, and then the profane being the everyday objects. Okay, so again, you've had this evolution of how many gods do we believe in? What gods do we believe in? Are they earth gods or are they spiritual realm kind of gods? And so the book goes through all of those different topics. Simple supernaturalism, not specific god or gods, just kind of believing in, a higher power in general. Animism is looking at nature, like a native way of, looking at the land and worshiping the land and what's around you, the earth. Theism is the belief in God or gods. Monotheism, one God. Polytheism, more than one God. And civil religion is the idea of human society, religion, live your life as a religion for future generations kind of belief. So the major world religions, again, Buddhism, Christianity, Confucianism, Hinduism, Islam, and Judaism, as discussed prior. But again, the evolution of those religions took a long time. And this has been going on for thousands of years. This was not an overnight phenomena. Okay? So the largest religion, the most followers, Christianity, followed by Islam, followed by Hinduism, Buddhism, and then Judaism and Confucianism. And again, these are not even close to all the religions that people follow today, and it would take humongous volume to cover all the religions that humans have believed in overall in life, okay? So again, religion and science, can't prove it, can't disprove it. Is science a religion? And again, that's why when we're talking in science, hopefully people are looking more at probabilistically accurate instead of saying things like truth or fact. Because again, no one can prove that we're not tapped into a matrix right now. No one can prove this isn't a computer simulation. So I always like to say that science is as much a religion as religion is a religion. It's just a silly way to look at it. But again, prove it, disprove it. Where does the matter for the Big Bang come from? Did you know in the vacuum of space, when there is nothing, that the atoms just pop into nowhere? Like electrons just pop in out of nowhere. So actually, something does come from nothing. It makes no sense. I mean, physics is absolutely phenomena. When you guys start studying religion and the history of religion, and then you start looking at the universe and where does that come from and how old is it and all the questions, and there a multiverse and all the cool physics, it will make you start to question things a little bit. Okay? So again, from a functionalist theory, what's the purpose of religion? Okay, how does it structure your life? I mean, what does religion do for you? It gives you a moral system, a value system, a way of life, a way of working with other people. It gives you meaning in your life and some sense of purpose, okay? Conflict theory. Just think about religious conflict, though. And that's why I say things like, why would, when you hear things like the word truth, we should question it instead of maybe not going to war over it. Because, how many wars are based upon religion? How many crusades were there where the Christians were attacking the Muslims and trying to take Jerusalem? And, you have Jewish people still right now fighting with Palestinian Muslims. You have Muslims fighting with Hindus in Pakistan and India. And it just goes on and on and on. Okay? So the history of religious conflict goes deep. All right? Symbolic interactionism is going to say again, is religion socially constructed? And then how does religion come about? And that comes about through social interaction, us interacting with each other and exchanging meaning, for example. And then rational choice is the idea that it's your choice. And that's one of the best ways to approach it is you don't know, you can't prove it. So why not seek out spirituality if that's your thing, but just don't judge anybody else for theirs maybe, and then maybe we could all get along without war and violence and terrorism that's based upon religion. So again, religion is a formalized bureaucracy with a code of values and laws and mores and norms and taboos and common way of life. It's an institution that's agreed upon by others. It is socially reproduced from generation to generation. Okay, so your book breaks down the types of bureaucracies. There's the ecclesia, that's a bureaucracy, a religion that's integrated with the dominant culture, such as the culture of the state, the government, the most common people in the country, for example. A church, an organized organization. A denomination is a non-dominant group. Cults are outside of the mainstream, and sects are, like different parts, like Christianity. How many different, different sects are there of Christianity, for example? Okay. So again, religion in the United States, religiosity is decreasing. That means, how like spiritual and religious people are. That is decreasing over time. It's a good question to ask if people are less spiritual in modern times or if they're just less religious in modern times. And again, religion is almost a practice of our spirituality that's been formalized and bureaucratized. And so I think a really good study would be to go out and see if, even though people's religiosity is down or falling, religions are down, does that mean that people are less spiritual? So secularization is again removing these kind of ethereal spiritual aspects of our life, removing the church from our major decisions, that idea of separation in church and state. And then fundamentalist being the opposite of, bringing religion in every conversation. Religion should be brought into every decision, for example. Okay? So again, thank you so much. It's an honor.